interviews from London to Los Angeles. I hope this podcast will inspire you to embrace your wild side. To keep up with my wild adventures, follow me at susielindow.com. You can also find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Enjoy the show. Hello, Wild Riders. Welcome to the Wild Side. I'm your host, Susie Lindow, and I've known my guest, Trai Cartwright, for years as a screenwriting teacher. But when I discovered that she is also a psychic medium, I had to book a reading, which was super wild and came up in today's interview. Trai talks about what it was like to grow up with psychic abilities. She delves into portals and how easily entities can attach themselves. It will make you think twice before you buy another antique. When she describes what it is like to do a past life regression, well, that was beyond my wild imagination, which is saying a lot. Trai Cartwright is a Denver-based filmmaker and teacher, community builder, creative business consultant, and storyteller. She is also a PTSD survivor, psychic medium, and story channeler. There has never been a time in her life when she wasn't fully immersed in stories and the people who tell them. There has never been a time when she wasn't using her special skills to assist people in reaching their potential. From NYU to Chicago to LA, Colorado, and Kansas, Trai has followed the call, diving deep into the exploration and development of every kind of storytelling. Feature films, documentaries, short films, plays, and web series, TV shows, and fiction and nonfiction of every kind. Welcome to the show, Trai.
Thanks so much for hosting me, Susie. Finally.
So it's so great to have you here today. Given your background as a psychic medium, I bet you have a great definition of wild. Can you give us a definition of wild?
You know, I've been pondering this question, Susie, and I got to tell you that I've seen some really just strange things in my life. And at some point, they all become normalized. So I don't know if I'm connected to wild the way some people do. I will give you an example of something that I thought was wild. I was on TikTok and there was a man at some festival who had outfitted his Barcalounger with wheels and an engine. And he was just driving around his Barcalounger. And I thought, that is wild. So imagination. And then the follow through, to have the imagination to think of things that nobody else would think or possibly even want. But darn it, it was entertaining.
That's right. And he just went with it.
He went with it. He did. And he had his cup holders and he was outfitted for the day. I would be amazed if he ever got out of that thing.
Well, that's a great definition of wild. I don't see any Barcalounger motorized vehicles in my future, but who knows? I have to believe you've got a few wild stories to tell today. So,
I do. So I thought maybe what I would talk about first is when I really connected to the idea that I was seeing things that other people weren't seeing. And it's not seeing necessarily. I have other clairs, but I don't tend to. Well, that's not true. I do see ghosts occasionally, but mostly it's clairsentience where they just sort of pop into my head and I can describe them and I know what clothes they're wearing and what age they're presenting at, because a lot of folks, once they cross over, don't necessarily want to be the age at which they crossed over. So they will pick a different age. And sometimes it'll be the clothes that they were wearing when they died, and other times it'll be like an outfit that they're known for because they want to be known, right? They want to make sure that whoever sees them can describe them well enough that the loved one is confident that this is truly their grandparent or, spouse or whoever it was that crossed over. I find that animals don't have that problem.
They just younger,
more mobile. Yeah. So maybe they do present younger. Okay, so everybody's vain in the afterlife is what I'm getting from all of this.
Oh, yeah, for sure. We're always vain. That might be one of our true soul connections, right?
And now that everybody's on Zoom, we're always like, oh God, that's what I look like. And that's what I sound like. And can we go back? I grew up in haunted houses. And I grew up in a very, very dysfunctional family. So this was not a conversation. In fact, there weren't really any conversations happening in my house. But I just knew that the basement of one particular house was horrible for me to go into. And it's where we actively used the basement. My mom was a ceramicist and she had her shop down there. And my dad was a reformed Mormon or excommunicated Mormon or however he wants to identify himself. But we still had the pantry, right, of like all the Armageddon foods. And I would be sent downstairs as a little kid, like go get some green beans for dinner. And I'm telling you, it was horrible. It was just terrifying to be down there. And then I wouldn't be able to find the green beans and then it would stretch on. And now I'm worried about my mom getting angry at me. And I'm worried about this thing that's in the basement that's like mocking me. And it would be years and years before my sister and I would talk about some of our experiences. And we realized, first off, we were both being stalked by the same jerks. In slightly different ways, but mostly the same ways. We had a lot of antagonistic spirits. And I think part of it is because our family was so antagonistic, like it kind of draws in some negative energy, or maybe the negative energy was already there and it was what, helped, disassemble my family unit. I don't know. But we were like, we're both seeing the same things, therefore it's real. And I think that piece of validation, especially when you go venturing off into the wild, it's so great to have somebody to be like, no, like this is true. You got this. It'll be okay.
Yeah, I kind of went through a similar thing at the Stanley Hotel where I was being told that none of the things I was seeing were real. And
how
this
dare
lady
they?
came
Who
up to
said
me.
that?
Yeah, they came up to me. These Ghostbuster people that were there on a Friday the 13th several years ago. The place was filled with Ouija boards. It was a very wild that. When this lady came up to me and she said, no, you actually are seeing things in the half light. It's not sleep paralysis. I said, well, I'm always grabbing my husband and going, Danny, look. So I'm definitely not paralyzed when this stuff happens. But I understand your feeling. I also had a similar pantry issue. So I think that's very interesting what you were saying. I don't know. It was in a family room. It wasn't like it was a basement. Go on. I would love to hear more.
Well, you mentioned the Shining Hotel because that's what everybody calls it, but it's what is it? It's just
the Stanley Hotel.
The Stanley, there it is. I've gotten photographs of like the orbs there, and I remember I was there. There was a ghost hunter episode. I think they're just always there shooting. The first floor is underground, so I guess it is a basement, but it's got the gift shop and bathrooms and. And I remember thinking, like, you guys are in the wrong place. Like, why are you, like, the action is over here, the action is over there, and how do you not know this? And maybe, they're just trying to cover everything. But my favorite Stanley Hotel story is I had sprained my ankle, so I was on crutches. I was very young. I was like 22, and we had driven up from Fort Collins to Estes, and I had to use the bathroom. And my friend was like, well, if you just go into the basement entrance, there's a bathroom just down that hallway that's probably the easy, otherwise it's stairs, it's people. He's like, just go that way. So I go in there and I open the door and it's got that gorgeous like black and white deco. The tiles are black and white and it's just beautiful. It's beautiful. Even the small basement bathrooms were lovely. But here's the thing. The bathroom stall was 30 feet away. And I'm like, that can't be right. That can't be right. And so I'm hobbling over because I got to use the bathroom.
It was like a tunnel vision kind of thing.
More fisheye lens. But it was distorted. And I get into the bathroom and I remember saying to the room, I am on crutches. This isn't funny. Stop doing this. And when I came out of the stall, the bathroom was the regular size, maybe 10 feet deep. It was so weird. That was wild. That was wild.
Wow. And terrifying, most likely.
No, because I just had to go to the bathroom.
Oh.
It was just great. There's been terrifying things, but I don't know, like you hang out with all of this multidimensional weirdness long enough, and mostly it's annoying at some point. I'm not saying that there's not entities and spirits that aren't really trying to make your life difficult and antagonizing you, but this was more playful, I would say.
See if you can get there on time, Trai.
Yeah. Hobble, you jerks. I will give you a horrifying story. So my Aunt Helen, I was very young when she passed away, and she had a heart attack. And I don't remember her as a child as her being nice at all. I mostly just avoided her. And my mother took my sister and I, so I was probably 5 or 6, so that made her 2 years older. And we went over to the house, and she said, Aunt Helen has some jewelry that I want, but it might be up in the attic. My mother says, I'm going to go check the bedroom. You two small children go up to the attic and search for this jewelry. No. This was my mother. This is a very typical Barbara thing. So we went up, and I remember immediately at the top of the stairs, it was those weird, like very narrow staircase, and it was kind of windy because people built their own houses back then. It was gorgeous work, but it was all very claustrophobic. We get to the top of the stairs, and there's a door, and it's unlocked. We go in, and I see my Aunt Helen, who passed away a few days before, and she's angry. She's so angry at us. And, and I just like, and she blinked out because I just made myself to stop seeing her because that was terrifying. So we're looking, and my sister says,
Wait a minute. Hold the phone. You stayed up there after you saw something like this?
Susie, my mother was more terrifying than my Aunt Helen was.
Oh my God.
If Barbara told you to do something, you're better going to do it. But thank you for mentioning that, because that's part of the weirdness of having PTSD is I don't have the same red flags that other people do. Like I will just hang out someplace that's obviously dangerous because it doesn't feel dangerous to me. My sister was like, you go search by the window, which was very nice of her because there was light there. And she was going through these other boxes, and I find a box that's got a box within it, and I open it, and there's a gun inside. So here's the thing. My grandfather used to, at random times, hold his family hostage. So when my mother was very young, she had a father who would and he was a teetotaler. He wasn't even drunk demons much. And he would come in and he would threaten to kill them. And this happened routinely enough that they had a system with the neighbors where once Harold, because it's New Jersey, Harold put down the gun and went to bed, having, exhausted his meat suit. Either my mom or my grandmother would run the gun to one of the neighbors and they would hide it. And then Harold, the next day would go looking for it and knocking on, like, give me back my gun, give me back my gun. It was so weird. It was so weird. It was the 50s, the 60s. It was horrible. That's where the gun ended up, was in my Aunt Helen's attic. And next to the gun was a bunch of this jewelry, costume jewelry. But back then it was, it was really nice costume jewelry. There was the jewelry that my mom was looking for. And I turned around and, my sister was like, walk over this way. And she wanted me to take like the long way around. And at some point, was it then? I can't quite remember because I was very young, but the door slammed. Like now we weren't going to get out. And my sister's trying to open the door, and it has a keyhole, so it requires a key to lock, but it wasn't opening, and there was no key. So something was holding this door closed. So now she's freaking out. My sister has seen plenty by that age.
Wow. She was older than you?
Yeah, 2 years
Your
older.
sister?
2 years older.
Okay.
So my sister says, Aunt Helen, let us go. The power of Christ compels you. I'm kidding. She didn't say that. It was like the exorcist moment, like, let us go. And the door finally pops open. But we left the jewelry in the attic. So our thinking is that Aunt Helen didn't want us to take away her stuff. And we made Barbara go up and, because we left it right by the door. If you want it, it's at the top of the stairs.
I never think of entities as being able to physically do things like that, but obviously they can.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Super scary.
For sure. Sometimes they'll say, "Oh, it's a poltergeist," like when your keys go missing, but it's not true. My understanding is the further disconnected you are from this life, the less influence you have, whether it's emotional influence or just making yourself known or being able to send signs. You hear this a lot, like, hey, if you want to talk to your grandma, ask her to send you a sign, send me a butterfly. And then also moving things around, because there's tons and tons of stories of like keys going missing, that sort of stuff. Now, if things are flying, that's a poltergeist.
Okay, I'll be aware next time.
I don't think there's a lot of ghosts out there, or a dark entity of some kind, as opposed to a spirit. But wait a minute, though, Susie. Okay, so I was in Missouri a couple of months ago, and we got an Airbnb. Oh, here's another scary story. Now, I had done my energy work so that, like, I was living in a little bubble. I had my eye mask and my earplugs. I slept. I slept great. I knew the place was hinky, and that's why I did the energy work and I was trying to clear out the whole place, but apparently I was not successful. So my sister in her sleep was being attacked by the spirit that lived there and was choking her in her sleep. And my sister in the morning, she's like, "You didn't hear me like banging on the wall?" And I was like, "Dude, I have my earplugs." She was like, "Yeah, I was trying to like this creature off of me." And she said at some point, I abandoned my room and I went into the living room to sleep. And the second time I did that, exactly where she had been sitting was a little pile of stones and gravel and little twigs and blades of grass. And she's like, "Where the heck did that come from?"
Right.
So things can manifest. I'm not going to tell anybody that every bad dream is something attacking you, but this was really obvious. It was really obvious that it was coming from my sister. It's pretty wild. And so we left.
Oh my God. You ran.
We checked out and went to a different Airbnb that was not a horror show. But I did try to clear that spirit, because even the darkest ones, they've gotten away from the light. So if you can reintroduce them to whatever you want to call it, God or source or supreme being or whatever, most of them are glad for the opportunity to go back to the light, but it's always their choice. Here it is. You remember Poltergeist when we were kids? Don't go into the light.
Yeah. So how is it that you do that? Like, do you just say things, or do you burn sage, or what do you do?
I have lots and lots and lots of tools, and I called myself a hatch witch for a long time, because whenever I would meet somebody who, first off, could commiserate, "Yeah, I see ghosts too," I'd be like, "Oh, tell me more. Let's share stories." Another person, and that they're willing to talk about it. And then if they told me, like, "Oh, all you have to do is say, 'Leave me alone,' and then the rules are they have to leave you alone." But a lot of people don't have the confidence to make that stand and be like, "No, I'm done. Get out of here," because it's a lot of energy to try to push out with your energy. And then as I got older, I actually started classes at a place called the Boulder Psychic Institute. Yeah, baby. Of course, Boulder's got the Psychic Institute.
Yes.
And they gave me all the foundational stuff that I'd never had, because we're just making it up, because nobody talks about this stuff. I mean, more and more they are, thank goodness. So what I do now is, now I know, I can go into, a meditative state and make sure I'm grounded and make sure I've got a psychic bubble around me so nothing can come at me. And then I'll engage with that spirit. Or I'll use the spirit guide to work as a mediator. Some people really prefer having a spirit guide take in the information and then convey it to you, and other people are fine with just taking it in directly. Hey, whatever your jam is. And then I just was like, hey, you obviously had a terrible death. You were trying to like demonstrate this terrible death to us because we could see you, we could communicate with you, and there's a light over here. If you want to go back to God, because this was he was not part of the house; he was part of the land, and we're thinking that he was oh golly, like 18 somethings, mid 1800s maybe. So he'd been attached to the land for a really long time, which is incredibly tragic in my eyes. Yes, he tried to choke my sister to death in her sleep, but at the same time, this was really sad. So offered him the opportunity. And sometimes they want people from the other side to come and get them, to let them know that it's okay. Because a lot of people have I consider it unreasonable fears about what happens after we die. So lots of people want assurances, and fine, no problemo. He as far as I know, he went across. But I'm also not, and like I cut off all of my ties to this guy so that I'm not dragging around his energy anymore. He's not attached to me. So I can reconnect if I really wanted to, but I don't want to.
No, I can imagine. Well, that's so cool that you were able to do that. So,
and we all can. It's all just intention and confidence to say, if you're being haunted, if your house is freaking you out, first off, don't doubt yourself. If there's parts of the house you don't like to go to, probably because there's, some weird energy that's stuck there, just tell it to go, but be really, really confident about it. And lots of people use tools. They'll use, you had mentioned sage, burning sage, or I'm more of a Palo Santo girl myself. Other people have like crystals. I keep little tourmaline rocks at all of my entrances and exits to help stop things from coming into my house. I do things. I have things. I have like a net set up around me.
What is Palo Santo?
It's just a wood, but it's just another wood that's great at clearing negative energy, which is what sage is doing when you burn it.
That's so cool.
Do you do any of that? Do you have crystals or rocks?
Yeah, I have some crystals, and I totally believe that those work for various reasons. But I will say that at one point when I was going through this crazy haunting in this house, my kids were even being awakened by doors slamming and all that kind of stuff. So my book club was here when the banger was around. They're like, "What is that?" It's like, "Oh, it's just our banger." It's just like
he doesn't like our book choice, and he's letting us know.
Exactly. So it was really frustrating. I did get a chair, and because it wasn't listening to me, and pulled it into our bedroom, which is where I was seeing all this ghostly activity, and stood on it like as if up was the way to go, as if it's not like right next to me or below me or whatever. And I just yelled. That was it. It ended. And I've had a couple little things since then, but nothing like what I used to have. For sure. So
nice. Good job. Worked. And you followed your instinct, like to get on the chair. There was something about having size and being able to project your energy from up there that changed things. So good job. Yeah. When I was 17, 18, I had the opportunity to run away and join the circus, which was NYU. I got into the arts, and it's a filmmaker circus. And there was a few things that instinctively, because, I was not in my body, because again, my childhood was not great. So there's a lot of disassociating that happens. And also these conversations about what is happening in the world and what is this information that's coming in, and is there anything to be done about it? They were years down the road. And I remember going to New York, and I had kind of the opposite reaction that a lot of psychics have. A lot of psychics can't do New York because it's just this epic bombardment of psychic energy, both from this present, but also from all the pasts, and all the people that live there, and time doesn't exist. So there's also future things that are going on. It's just a big old portal, huge energy there. And and first off, I discovered alcohol, and in New York, they don't card you. So that was how I started managing the bombardment of energy, which, by the way, a lot of psychics do, because it just turns down the volume. Alcohol makes you be here, even though when people are silly and drunk, it seems like they're not there, but like they're more in this world than they maybe were before they had a couple of drinks.
I did not know that.
So the people who are really grounded in this world, they tend to not have as much access. But again, we can all do this. But they tend not to be as instinctive, and they tend not to be reading all the things that are going on around them. And I was just so overwhelmed, Susie, that I was like, I have to shut this stuff down. So alcohol was a way. And then, and plus I also knew that if I ever went down the rabbit hole of the psychic stuff, like that would be it. That would be my life. And I didn't want that. I wanted to be a writer.
Yeah. Right. And a teacher. You're an excellent teacher.
Right. Which came later, although it does turn out making movies and being in the film industry, it's a lot of teaching. It's a lot of sharing information and passing on information. So I guess I was always teaching, as it turns out, just in offices as opposed to classrooms. I decided to not pay attention to any of it. But dude, you can't not. It's still there. I had a foot fetishist that would hassle me. Like I couldn't sleep with my foot outside of the blanket because he was just like that, and because I felt like he was gonna creep on my foot. So I put my foot under blankets. But also, that said, when I worked at Fox, I worked in, my office used to be the stables. Back when Fox did all those Westerns, there was a horse that was a dead horse that hung out in our building. I'm just confused as heck. And I wish I knew then what I know now. Like I could have sent him on his way.
You just would walk down a hallway and there would be Mr. Ed. Hey, how are you, Trai?
When's my call time?
Did it communicate at all to you, or was it just there?
No, I think he knew that I could see him, but horses, they have what intelligence that they have. And I think that he was so trained to be on sets and to be a movie horse. He loved his job and he was ready to go back to work. Yeah, it's kind of sad. Like when you think about it that way, it was kind of sad.
Yeah.
And I hope he's not still there. The poor thing. And then at Paramount Pictures, I was in a building called the Dressing Room Building, which was just that. They were dressing rooms for the actors and actresses that they converted into offices. And my office was once used by Marilyn Monroe. One half of the building was fine. The half that my offices were in were fine. But if you cross this one area, it got creeping bad. So I was always taking the outside stairs so I wouldn't have to go over there. And later on, I found out that they took two buildings and they mashed them together. And that's where the divide was. So this building was always messed up and this building was always fine. And it doesn't cross over. It wasn't coming across where they thought that wall was. Huh. Isn't that weird?
That is. It just kind of embedded itself in the cells of the structure.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. My dorm was like that at NYU too, that where I ended up being fine. You go around the corner. No, I would never go to parties on that side. Wow. And it later turned out that NYU had taken an apartment building and a hotel, mashed them together. And this hotel was unfortunately a place where a lot of, they had a name for it, where poor people would live. So folks who were kind of at the end of their rope, this was a cheap place for them, years and years and years and years ago for them to live. So there was a lot of agony and a lot of abuse. And so I just never went over to that side of the building. And I never understood why. I just knew, don't go there, don't go there.
Right. I can say that I went through Winchester House. I never went into places like that expecting anything. I just wanted to see the crazy 13 steps going nowhere and all the great stained glass windows made by Tiffany, because I've made stained glass myself. And when we went into this one loft space, it had been a storage area. I got really woozy. So I know what you're talking about. Really woozy. The floor was uneven, kind of unbalanced. And I was so feeling like I was going to have to leave the room because I was going to be nauseous or pass out or something, which is very odd for me. But after I left the room, my daughter said, "Oh, I felt really strange in there." And then afterwards, we were talking about it, and the tour guide overheard us, and she said that she hates going in there because of that same reason, and that other people had found that. But I think there had been an accident or something like that while they were building, that someone had died in that room. So it kind of made sense. But it's like, okay, I know what that feels like. I can use that in my next book. No.
Do it. Yeah. So the dizzy thing is very normal. If you find yourself going into a space and you get woozy, or I had this the other day where my shielding was down. I just finished teaching something, so I was kind of exhausted. And a woman came up to me, and she was just one of the darkest clouds. Her life was just absolutely a shambles. And she was just broadcasting all of this negative energy. And I almost puked on her shoe.
And this was a real life.
This is a real life thing. Yeah. So we respond to negative energies. So for the listeners out there, don't ignore the woozy. Like if you get woozy, like get out. It could be a person, it could be an entity, it could be a portal. I usually get woozy around portals.
Wow. Explain the portal thing.
We're not the only dimension. If you believe in a heaven, guess what? That's another dimension, right? So we're all multidimensional people. When they talk about like, well, aliens can't possibly come here because it would take all these light years for them to travel across. And how do they have that technology and blah, blah, this and blah. And I'm like, it's multidimensional, y'all. They're just using a portal. Don't be silly.
Yeah.
Of course they're here. They're bouncing in and out of portals all the time.
Yeah, everything, everywhere, all at once.
Everywhere, all at once. Yes, that movie. Oh, that movie was such a relief to me because I was like, yes, that's my experience. That's how it lives.
Yeah, it explained it. So, and what are portals like?
Most portals are put there by, I'm just going to keep using the word entity because it's a bucket that covers lots of things. Where it becomes an access point where they can like access this dimension. Sometimes, however, we open the portal. And I was notorious for this. I was popping portals all the time, and I had to learn to knock that off because then all this other from other places could pop in everywhere. And it's rude. It's just rude to open portals all over the place. So
how did you do that though?
I don't even know. It was an unconscious thing because I'm not really completely in this dimension. So I think it was just this natural thing to like go over here, go over here, go over here, go over here. But again, I didn't understand anything. So I didn't know that's what I was doing. Like lots of people have closets. So places with stagnant energy often end up being also places where portals exist. Mirrors are portals. Joy. I will not look in a mirror at night in the dark because I don't want to see what's going on.
I have a piece of furniture that has a diamond dust mirror. They used to make mirrors with diamond dust. I've been asked to remove that piece of furniture from our house one of these days. But that could be when all of this crazy stuff, well, actually, I know when all the crazy stuff happened, but I'm sure that that's transported something if that's how they do it in my bedroom. So
diamonds are even bigger conduits than, we talk a lot about like quartz, rose quartz or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
So I wonder if that diamond dust isn't amplifying.
What if I wanted to start seeing stuff again? Not that I really do, but how would I open up that dimension again?
Well, to me, it's just a big old party. And the first thing that I always advise is like, you really have to interview yourself about what you're willing to see and what you don't want to see, because you get to set the rules, y'all. Like this is just because, I was young and dumb and had no mentoring and no counsel. I was bombarded. You don't have to be bombarded. None of us do. So really decide the things that you would like, because a lot of people will say, you know what, I just want heightened intuition. I just want to be able to ask a question. Should I go here or should I go there? And to get an answer. And that's plenty for me. And other people, I feel a call to heal people. So they'll go there. And other people would love to be a death doula and to be able to help people cross over or to pass on messages from the loved ones that have passed on, which, by the way, the message is always the same. I love you. I'm proud of you.
The money is hidden in the closet.
Oh, those were the messages.
Yeah.
That would be amazing. So maybe look into what kinds of skills that resonate with you, that pull you, that excite you. There's lots of things that can be really scary. Then don't do it. Then just be like, no, I'm not gonna astral travel. I didn't want to astral travel for a long time.
Astral travel? Oh my God, tell me about that.
Oh, we're all doing it in our sleep. We're all working a double shift.
That's why we're exhausted.
That's exactly right. We're all exhausted. The white lighters, man, we are doing double time trying to save the world or whatever it is we think we're doing over there.
Right.
So that's the first thing, is decide what you want to do. Second thing is learn what grounds you. So for a lot of people, it's going into meditation. Other people don't even need that. They're just able to access it very quickly. But they probably started doing meditations because you're putting, your brain on a different, into the alpha frequency, blah, blah, blah science, which allows you to
I learned about that.
Have access to other things. Make sure you have a grounding cord just from your first chakra, your tailbone. Just make sure there's a good grounding cord going all the way to the middle of the earth to remind your body and your spirit, like, hey, I belong here. I'm in this world, so that you don't go venturing too far away or you can't find your way back. I like to do psychic bubbles. Sometimes it's just the aura, but I'll do more than that. I'll do shielding. So I never go into any kind of a busy situation without asking my guides and archangels and ascended masters and whoever is available, light and love, to come and shield me. I want to go to sporting events. I want to go to concerts. But you know what? That's just a shit show. Sorry. Energetically, that's really horrible to be in. So to ask for shielding, and if you have a relative that passed on, you can ask them, come and protect me, come and guide me. So do that kind of stuff first, so that you're not just sort of throwing yourself out into the void willy-nilly. If plants resonate with you, have your plants around. If scents, a lot of people are into aromatherapy. Guess what? That's a psychic tool. Have that around. You said you like to work with crystals. Maybe keeping some of those around is not a bad move, right? And because you're telling those crystals or those plants or that aromatherapy, like you're here to be helpful to me. I want to receive guidance regarding this big decision that I have in my life. I'm going to hang on to you, whatever. I'm going to smell you, and you're going to help me access this information. So you're making a partner of it. Our ancestors left so many different tools for us. And Americans, oh man, we were just out of the loop for our entire country's history. And now we're coming back to it. And as it turns out, the trees are our friends. Water is a conduit, and we should be taking in information and taking in blessings and, all of that wonderful stuff in our natural world. So lots of the tools are a part of our natural world. And some people use them and some people, they don't. They just turn it on. So I have little shrines all over the place. And this is a Fung-Sheui thing. I mean, Fung-Sheui, hello, it's psychic protections. Duh, it's moving energy. It's making energy work on your behalf. Guys, easy peasy. You don't have to believe in any of this. Just shut your darn bathroom doors. Close the lid on your toilets, because the toilet is where the money's going down, right? So just close it off. Put a mirror on the back of your door, and I guarantee you, your money is going to stabilize. What is crazy?
A mirror in your bathroom on the back of the door?
Yeah, it facing into the bedroom. Any energy that's in the bedroom stays in the bedroom. And then I always make sure I close. And plus, it's just gross, like germ-wise. Like, put the lid down. Ew.
I know. That's true. What other things should we be doing? We have the mirror on the door. What else?
An infinite number of things. So I have little tourmaline rocks. Tourmaline is a black stone that sucks up everything, good and bad. Some people will just use obsidian, which is meant to be only the bad stuff. So I put them at all of my doors, including closet doors, because again, portals.
So closets really are portals?
They can be. Wow. It's again, stagnant energy.
Because it has stagnant energy in there.
Or if you have a crawl space under your stairs.
So that's why I pinched my finger in a closet door last week. It's like it's negative energy in there.
or you're clumsy. It's hard to say.
Actually, the door needs to be fixed. It's off the track. It's human error.
It was a reminder, like do this. So I usually look at those kinds of things as, okay, I hurt my finger. The door's off the track. That means I need to fix the door because it's going to stop something worse happening later. So like, go fix your door.
It's a warning.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Are you a feather person at all? I collect feathers. Yeah.
Feathers speak to a lot of people. If you're walking around,
they make me happy. I don't know why.
Coins when you're out walking around. I remember when I moved to this place, it was during a time of like a lot of disruption in my life, and I was feeling very insecure. And I'm telling you, for like 2 months, I could not leave my house. I walk my dog 3 times a day. Every single time I walked my dog, I would come across like a penny or a nickel, and it was just little signs.
Nobody even carries coins anymore.
I keep a piggy bank.
That's a real sign.
Because a piggy bank is, it's part of a shrine. It's you gathering money energy and manifestation energy.
Sure. And then think about all the fingerprints and all the people who've passed their energy onto that metal.
Which,
could that be part of it?
That freaks you out. And by the way, anytime, like I don't go to estate sales and I don't buy used anything. I can't because of exactly what you're talking about. But if you really fall in love with something, bring it home and get some sage or some Palo, Santo.
My entire house is full of antiques.
But you sage, right?
Yeah, I haven't ever. I should use it.
You might, just for fun, just to see if it changes the energy of your place.
Yeah, I should. Do I have to buy that, or can I use some from my yard?
That's a very good question. I don't have an answer to. I feel like so much of it is your intention that if you cut the sage out of your yard and you dried it and you told it you're here to clear negative energy, it probably would.
It would work.
And that's all the Slayer stuff, right? That's all the easy stuff. Sure. And we talked about like getting rid of ghosts. If you got ghosts in your house, like just tell them to leave, tell them to leave, tell them to leave.
Right.
If you feel like you have a portal, and basically, again, it's just, a space that just doesn't feel good. You can fill it in with golden light. Also, YouTube is your friend. Y'all, there is so much to learn on YouTube. Like,
do you have some recommendations of some YouTube channels that you think are good?
I'm one of those people that I never want my information to only come in from one channel. Because that makes me nervous, right? Like diversification. And I always had this thing like, if you hear it twice, it's a coincidence. If you hear it 3 times, you can now trust it. And this worked really great in Hollywood, because if you kept hearing the same gossip from 3 different resources, then chances are it's not gossip, it's gold. So same thing with like in media, right? You don't want to just take it in from one resource. And it's the same thing is, when you're taking in psychic information, you only want your voice. You want to be the only person talking to you in your head, right?
Exactly.
So I listen to tons and tons and tons of people. But here's the crazy thing. They all end up saying the same stuff, just in different language.
Yeah.
So
use the shotgun approach.
Right.
And just
so I feel like
try different things.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the gate, what's that phrase? The very first person who was talking about all this stuff for our generation was Deepak Chopra. And everybody thought he was nuts. Oh. I'm telling you, Oprah's deep in the woo. She's deep in the woo. And I don't think she would ever tell you otherwise. And I started probably almost a decade ago, I started listening to his books. And I and I didn't understand any of it. It was also weird because it's very science-based. Like he wants you to understand the science behind what's going on here, quantum physics. And I was like, I don't get it. Like, I'm too stupid to be psychic. After studying, guess what? Like, nothing he says is weird to me. Like, I understand him now, but I had to study. Like, I had to study in order to understand. So he was the first, and I still listen to him because, no offense to Mr. Chopra, but his voice, like, is very meditative for me. So I listen to his meditations and he puts me to sleep and it's wonderful.
It's like reading Charles Dickens sometimes. Great writing that all of a sudden it lulls you off.
Right. And there's reasons for that. There's writerly reasons, but that's a different show.
Yeah.
So I listen to Sarah Hall.
Poetic.
She's at Angel Channel. I listen to Chiron, Kyron. There's a billion channels on YouTube, but be discerning. Make sure that it's resonating with you and it doesn't feel like BS, that they're not constantly selling stuff to you. So Lee Harris is fantastic. The guy who channels Chiron, who is a multidimensional, I mean, we would just call him an alien, but like whatever. I think it's a star being, I think is the new phrase that people are using.
Ooh, I like that.
I also listen to a number of astrologists because a lot of astrologists are psychics who are translating the science because astrology is science, y'all. It's freaking science. They're using this, like just like tarot card readers.
I was going to ask you about that, about prognostication and all that.
Yeah, those are just tools that kind of help you focus your psychic stuff. Some people really love them. I started with runes, never got to tarot.
Wow.
Went straight to just listening. But lots of people, in my world here as well as on YouTube. So follow your instinct, be discerning, listen across a number of channels until you find the people. Elizabeth April, she talks to the Galactic Council all the time. So if that's your jam, if aliens are your jam, like she's in that space. There's just tons. Jessica Lanyadoo, she's my favorite astrologer because she's also a psychic and she talks to animals sometimes, which is the most enlightening thing in the world is because they don't think like us at all.
I do have a question for you. You did a psychic reading for me.
I did.
And I have a million questions, so we'll probably run over, but and we can pick this up next time. But I was so curious about how you experience that when you're doing a reading for someone, what that's like for you.
So things have evolved pretty rapidly for me because I'm putting a lot of energy into it. Like I'm studying it a lot and I'm practicing a lot. So I started off just doing past life readings, which Susie, I don't know how to explain it. It's just the easiest thing in the world for me because it's not me doing it. It's your soul, it's your spirit telling me what lives have messages to present to you. So I don't know how to explain it. It's just really easy for me I could do that all day long and I love it because all it is just like looking at a movie.
Yeah, well, that's what I wondered. Now, are you in that person? Like when you did mine, were you in my shoes when you were walking into the house or when you went into the woods or whatever I was doing? And then did you hear things or did you just experience, just get a vibe?
It's like the best VR experience there is.
Oh,
because you really do cross over into that dimension and you really are having it. Sometimes I'm in the person and sometimes I'm just watching the person like a movie camera would.
Have you ever done one for someone and then not wanted to tell them what you saw?
Absolutely, all the time.
Was there anything in mind that you didn't want to tell me?
The amount of violence that we all have experienced is horrible. Human evolution, I don't know if we're just slow, but the history of our species is just unfathomably violent. And I will absolutely witness things where I'm like, I ain't telling them that.
Yeah.
And and then I'll soften it, right? Like I'll use language so that it's easier to hear because it can be really upsetting for people to I've watched people be tortured. Ugh. And then sometimes I get to like feel it, which is super fun.
You had mentioned that I was the daughter of a healer and all, which really resonated with me. I was into botany and I have a million plants. It makes sense to me that herbology is in my past life too. But I had gotten hurt in the woods and I tried to fix my leg, but then I had this limp later and I'm like, I bet I lost my leg, like something like that.
And in this life, don't you have knee problems?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, so
I
that
do.
stuff carries over across lifetimes.
So how do I get rid of that knee problem I have?
So I've been learning more and more, and we can all do it. But sometimes, quite frankly, for a long time, I was too lazy to do it myself. I have people who can do it for me. So I will call them up and pay them. I was totally legit. Like, you don't have to go through everything to learn to do it. Although I do find that the more you live in this space, the more curious you get, and the more you do want to learn it for yourself. So there's people like me who clears the energy. We mostly call it getting rid of like the karma from that life. And you can assign karma lots of different meanings. But basically what it's saying is you learned the lessons that you needed to learn. And I don't need to keep repeating those lessons now. So let's clean out that karma. Let's clean out that energy. And lots of people, especially around money, money is huge, huge. Everybody always talks about money. We're Americans. It's all we do. We're obsessed with how much we have and how much we don't have. So lots of people want to focus on that. But other people, and money and love, right? Like, why do I keep picking the same lousy person? You can absolutely do the therapy and get there. But you might also consider working with an energy healer who can go back and say, oh, this is where it started. And look, in this life, the same thing, the same thing. Let's just clear out those lessons. You're done with those lessons. And let's see who new comes in, so that you're not just on, repeat all the time. And some of it, you guys, like, it's so, sorry, I'm talking to the audience, guys, it's so ingrained. Like, it's so ingrained. So very rarely is it like an instant fix. Like, don't think of things as like, oh, I'm going to take one class. I'm going to take one writing class and now I can write books. Now I'm a fabulous screenwriter. Like, it's cumulative and you got to stay in it, and keep listening, and different teachers have different things to teach you. So if you're willing to kind of engage with it and make it part of your repertoire of keeping yourself healthy. Some people, all they need is a facial. Some of us need to clear karma.
I could use both.
and both are totally viable.
You see a rose for each person, and that is a common way to figure out where the past lives are or how far back to go.
Yeah, it's another tool that we are trained with so that we just have something to focus on. Now I don't need the rose, but at the beginning, like, rose was just this great way. It's like, what colors am I seeing? How long is the stem? How many thorns? That kind of stuff. And now, because I've been doing it long enough, get it. I just get the information and I don't need the visualization. But visualizations are so powerful. They can really help us connect to the information that we're looking for. The other thing that I find that I have, so everybody has like different clairs that are just easy for them. So some people hear things, some people just know things, some people see things, whatever. And we have access to all of them. It's just that us are like, even like in school, I'm better at English, so I'm just going to stick to English stuff. I'm better at math, I'm going to stick to math stuff. But you can do all of it with a little more work. I'm really good at medical intuition. I can feel things in a person's, and I feel it in my own body. I had one person that I read where I was telling her that it's something going on in your upper torso. I don't think it's a heart thing. I don't think it's a lung thing. I can't quite pin it down, but just pay attention. It's not like, lighting up the flares and running to the emergency room, but there's something going on. So like don't ignore it. If you end up having this chest pain, go get it checked out. And it sat with her, and she's like, you know what? Like, because of COVID, I haven't seen my doctors in a long time. I'm just going to go. And she went and she had a lump, and it was the lump that I was reading. And it turned out to be nothing. Wow. It turned out to be nothing. Yeah. But so I'm really curious about that stuff, because it's not, I don't just want to be able to identify it, I want to be one of the people who can help clear the energy around. And sometimes I'm able to, but again, it's not like, snap, you're healed, heal this heathen. It takes some work. So another friend of mine just recently, she has all these back problems and she can't even lift her arms up over her head. Just really, her whole back is just, So I did some work on her. Wow. And the next day and I know it sounds small, but like when you can't live or when you live without rotation, it's horrible. Right. And part of her back relaxed. And I was like, okay, this is something that your body's responding to. Let's keep doing this. And just like, I'm not going to say that I'm going to fix her freaking vertebrae because she's got things that are way above my pay grade going on there. But like, maybe there's ways to make your body loosen up, right?
Well, if it's in spasm, if muscles are in spasm and they're holding things really tightly, that can be mental for sure.
Yeah.
And you had mentioned my hips too, and I found out later that my knee problems are from my hips. So you are the expert, Trai. I need to come and do some energy work with you.
Not an expert, but I'm on the road. I'm having a really good time with it, and I'm seeing good results with the people I work with. So that encourages me to keep at it. So,
Now, I have one other question. So do you also believe that tarot and runes and horoscopes and all of that can somewhat give you an idea of what's in your future or what to be aware of in your future?
Absolutely.
Prognostications? Oh, you do? Okay.
If you look across all ancient civilizations, they all have their own variations of divination. So in Asian cultures, it's looking at like tea leaves. In Russia, it's looking at the coffee grounds. In other cultures, they take bones, bones and sticks and stones, and they cast them. It's called casting the bones, casting the stones. And the way they land, the person who is tuned into this intuitive tool can tell you things about yourself and things about the world. These things have always been there. They've always been there. We've been working with them this entire time. Runes go back thousands of years. So whatever you respond to, play, go to your local new age store, and some people it's like it's oracle cards, and some people it's goddess cards, and some people it's tarot, et cetera, et cetera. Go see what resonates with you, because these are all just ways for you to focus your intuition. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And I've known some dynamite tarot readers where you're like, how do you know that?
I know. My daughter got into tarot first, and then she gave me a deck, and it's so bizarre. Like the card, you have 78 cards. It's like, how do you pick that one card? Like how exactly what you resonate with as the answer, it's really pretty crazy. So yeah.
It's a party, man. This is all just a party, as far as I'm concerned. Because once you realize that, we're here to learn lessons. Some lessons are absolutely more horrible than others, and that really can't be understated. How hard this realm of existence can be for a lot of people, but for other folks, I can't remember who, and I've heard it across a number of different. I'm going to just call it channels, different people, where they say the harder your life, the more you wanted to clear old lessons. You're like, I'm just going to pull a bunch of stuff. I'm going to do the PhD version of karma clearing. But it can be unbelievably painful and destructive and horrible. But again, if there's the possibility at different times to be able to recognize that this isn't all there is, that you chose this for yourself, and once you see that this is something that you're in a sense controlling, which, by the way, when I first got into this, I was like, screw you. Why would I ever choose this shitty life for myself? Hell no, I reject that. This has been horrible. And I reject all things human. But now I'm a little more relaxed about it. But I can recognize this in other people. It's like, how dare you say that I chose this for myself? This is agony. This is nothing but agony. Yes, it is agony. Also, you have capacities to make changes. And there's lots and lots of tools, and we all have the capacity to use all the tools. It's just whatever is most, useful for you.
Everybody should make a list and just start checking off those items, so then we get to live our best lives.
Or at least
get it done
in this other capacity. Because it can be very, very, very soothing for people to know that the door slamming isn't them imagining things, that
Oh, yes.
the dreaming of a relative who passed on, that's really them, and this is how they're able to connect with you. Just answers so many, because we're all having these wild, weird experiences, but we don't get educated about any of it. So mostly we just sit around being like, well, that's odd.
Yeah.
There's reason for all of it, and all of it is real. Don't doubt yourself.
Well, I've really enjoyed this.
Me too. Thank you.
This whole discussion, and it leaves me with as many questions as answers, which is great. So we'll have to do this again.
Excellent. Right on.
Did you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, I feel like I got to say the things I wanted to say, and just really encourage people to, follow your heart, follow your instincts. And sometimes there are those of us who just don't have that access or that trust in ourselves. So maybe go find other people and start hanging out with them.
Exactly.
Go
go
find teachers.
Right. And also surround yourself with radiators and not drains. That was the Reese Witherspoon quote of the year, I think. Find yourself some radiators.
Right. And we're everywhere, as it turns out. So
yes,
not hiding anymore.
I think we are radiators. Well, thank you so much, Trai. Really enjoyed this interview, and we'll have to do it again soon.
Sounds good.
Anything that you would like to add where people can find you?
I would just direct people to my main hub, which is traicartwright.com. I'm making plans for the kinds of things that I feel that I can teach. I don't want to teach above my pay grade. So I was like, okay, what are the things I'm confident in? What do I think would be handy for people? Like, okay, I'm going to offer some online classes. And I'm also a writing teacher and an editor. So I don't advertise. The people who are meant to work with me always find me. And that's just the way it's always been. So yay, universe. That's a happy thing. So
she's an excellent screenwriting teacher. I've taken at least 4 classes with you.
It's always been fun. So
yes, a wealth of information. I'm always like, slow down.
I can't. I'm channeling. I'm trying to keep up with information.
This could take an entire semester instead of 6 to 8 weeks. So you get a lot. You get a lot from Trai's classes. She's an excellent teacher, and she does a lot of one-on-one, and she does a lot of critique work, and it's really, really valuable, and you will find yourself going to a higher level. Any writers out there, I would highly recommend her. So thank you, Wild Writers, for tuning in, and until next time, keep it on the wild side. I want to hear about all your wild adventures. You can always contact me at SusieLindow.com. Anyway, talk to you soon.
Production and musical score of The Wild Side by Kelly Lindow. Visit my website at SusieLindow.com. Follow me on Facebook and Instagram, or tweet me about the show at Susie Lindow, and I'll follow you back. If you enjoyed The Wild Side, be sure to tell your friends, family, or anyone who will listen. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. Thanks so much for listening.